Hello, welcome everybody. We're going to give it a few minutes while people get logged in. Hello, folks. I'm just giving it a couple minutes for people to log on. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us today. For the sake of time, we have allocated an hour and a half for this presentation, so I want to be sure that we get everything in. I'll go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining the Omaha Land Bank for this community informed policy presentation. My name is Andrea Purdy Steenholt, and I am the Director of Operations here at the Land Bank. We do have other staff on the call as well in case there's some questions, but I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. So some of the meeting objectives for today. As I mentioned, we've got an hour and a half, but I do want to make sure that I lay the groundwork for the Community Informed Policies Initiative. So I'll go over what's been done and what we are seeking for folks today. We'll talk about some of the results of those meetings that we had, and then we'll talk about our findings and proposed solutions. So based on the meetings that we had, today we're going to talk about ways in which we want to make some changes. And we are going to be seeking feedback. However, I want to point out a couple times throughout this that the best way for us to capture your feedback is going to be through email. So what will happen is I will be sending out the presentation as well as some supporting documents tomorrow morning, allowing you time to review it this week. I will talk more about this later on in the presentation, but we'll hold all comments. Please continue to take notes as we go through, but you will have access to this document so that you can provide us with all of your thoughts in an email. We wanted to make sure that you had enough time to really process it and allow for some open-ended conversation. So we'll get started on the Community Informed Policies Initiative. So the Land Bank wants to revisit our policies and procedures for the following purposes. So we want to develop community-informed policies that are equitable and they reflect the needs, the interests, and the desires of the community. The main point being that we advance opportunities for residents in historically redlined areas to access land bank properties. Through this, we would support the successful development of the vacant parcels in our inventory. At this time, all of our lots are vacant. And we want to prioritize the disposition of properties for equitable access. And just a couple points that we will talk about later on in the presentation, some compliance monitoring initiatives, where we want to identify what are the roles and the responsibilities of the land bank for monitoring these properties' successful development, as well as minimizing the potential to claw back the deeds in the future. So to achieve this, we did some strategic outreach and engagement in which members of the public and past applicants, ambassadors, developers, and national partners helped us contribute to these findings that we're going to present to you today. So we hosted several public meetings over the course of April that were hosted weeknights and weekends, and as well as several focus groups regarding our brand discovery process all to initiate these findings. We are speaking with the Center for Community Progress, which is our national land bank partner, where they are providing us with national best practice perspectives, all of these incorporated in today's findings. So the next steps in today's meeting, we want to capture feedback so that we can present a draft proposal for these changes to the board on Wednesday, May 8th at 9 a.m. This will take place at Metro Community College Fort Campus in the Mule Barn. And this meeting is open to the public and we encourage people to attend. And you can find out more information as you receive this presentation in your email. You'll be able to click this link and sign up for the event as well, or just show up on that day. It'll provide you more information. We just wanted to take our time to thank everybody who was able to participate in the meetings. It was really wonderful to sit down and have one-on-one conversations with community members, really hear people's perspective and put them in the role of the land bank board member. We couldn't have done it without sitting with you face to face. So I know that, you know, people took their nights and took their weekends to show up, and that was really appreciated. We want to continue this partnership. This is not the end of this. This is just step one. How do we stream up our policies and procedures? But we will continue to be out in the community for all of our quarterly workshops and our events. So we do want to continue this partnership. So I want to dive into the findings and the trends based on the meetings that we had. So a little bit of background, again, is that the those that participated were put in the role of an acquisition and disposition board member. And what that means is they were reviewing hypothetical applications to then make decisions of whether to accept, reject, counter offer, or ask for further information on those applications. And today we're going to present to you the results as well as the findings on those. So the first application was an out-of-state developer, and the following trends were made. You can see the pie chart in the bottom corner, but the majority of hypothetical mock board members, 40% of them requested additional information from this applicant, while 35% wanted to counter. And in consideration of some blight removal, 10% of those participating would have rather accepted the application under asking price. So what were some of the observations that the land bank discovered from that? We found that the community is flexible in supporting the development of vacant properties only if the social, economic, and racial impact associated with the development considers the existing residents. We also found that it's preferred that it's local residents first, but out-of-state developers were amenable if properties remain undeveloped for 5 or more years. And then lastly, experience with successful development is key. So again, I'll reiterate for anybody that may have joined a little bit later, as we go through these, we are going to receive feedback through email upon emailing you this presentation. So we do want you to keep notes and look at this on your own time so that you can develop feedback and a response to us accordingly. Moving on to the next application that we reviewed. This was a nonprofit developer. As you can see in the right corner, 79% of community participants would approve the application that was met at full asking, while 17% would rather have more information. And the more information was really the applicant's vague financial plan and affordable housing, but nearly a quarter of the participants questioned the feasibility and intentions. So what did we observe out of that? The land bank observed that for projects that claim to be affordable housing, we need more clarity for a targeted end user and a financial plan to ensure that the project is in fact feasible. And then reputable local nonprofits with a proven track record are more palatable than nonprofits claiming to do good work. And as we get later on in the presentation, I will describe some of the ways in which we plan to implement these findings. Moving to the third application that was reviewed, this was for a recurring buyer. Some of the trends, we had kind of a split on this one. So they were mostly split on rejecting, or countering the application, while 24% were open to considering additional information. So most participants found that it was concerning that this particular recurring buyer had not yet started a previous land bank property project yet. They had been approved for a project prior, had not started, but then were applying for another property. So that was a concern as community members playing land bank board members. And then participants also found that the applicant was an example of generational wealth building, and they were overall happy to support a resident who is a Spark graduate. However, it was more important that they felt that this project was feasible and could be completed. And our fourth application that was reviewed was an experienced developer. So the majority of participants rejected this applicant, and it was mainly due to being an applicant residing in West Omaha, and they were the participants viewed them in the same lens as they would an out-of-state developer. So kind of weighing out that out-of-state versus out-of-district. And then participants preferred to sell land at full asking price and would like to see the built structure, how the built structure would support access to current residents. So residents being key in this particular instance. Our fifth application reviewed was the first-time buyer, and we were fairly split between accept and further information. So participants mostly wanted to support the applicant as she was trying to purchase a home to live in for owner-occupied, though the application readiness raised concern, and this is why they asked for more information or rejecting. So what were our observations? Basically, that participants indicated a strong need to support first-time resident buyers, but that resources were really key to ensure that the project was feasible and could be developed under the guidelines. And our last application that was reviewed was an adjacent neighbor. The trends that were made on this, participants mostly offered to counter on this applicant. They had offered $6,500 less than asking, but they wanted to consider the investment costs that this particular neighbor had said were put into the property. And some of the observations that we made was that there should be discernment over supporting projects on buildable lots. While this was a buildable lot, the applicant wanted to extend their property lines and fence it for personal use. And that was one of the things that was really taken into consideration for the mock board. And then any lot transformation may not always equal an asset to the community. And then participants, were divided on wealth building for one resident versus the benefit for the entire community. So while she wanted to benefit herself by extending her property lines, it was raised, how do we support the entire community? And these are all taken into account as I go through the findings in the next step. Following the application reviews, the mock board committee members were asked to individually grade some questions that we had prompted for them. So we had asked some applicant-based questions that were really asking the committee to make decisions regarding selling properties based on the applicant themselves and the feasibility to execute. So some of the findings that we came across was the need to prioritize generational wealth building when possible. The second being that a weak application can be strengthened with resources provided by both the land bank and partnering organizations. And that experience with development is valued to ensure essentially that these vacant lots are put back into productive use. And that some improved vetting of the application is desired up front, but to close, the buyer would still be required to conduct their due diligence, which is their plans, permit, development team, and financing. the majority of people would like to see lots marketed with signs and online. And people really wanted to see owner-occupied home ownership first and affordable home ownership second. So you can see how it was ranked off in the chart to the right in terms of what the applicant intended to do with the property. And that's how those first two ranked. Moving on to the next, these will be project-based questions that were asked. So the committee made decisions regarding selling properties based on the proposed project. So most people wanted the land bank to provide a tier-based compliance monitoring structure that allows for leniency based on experience and scale of project. So rather than requiring a standard 2-year timeline across the board, they wanted to be able to offer a leniency if you needed more time for a larger scale project. And it was determined that the best use of lots, of buildable lots, is structures. We also found that the best use of structures are spelled out, ranked off to the right in the chart. The first being single-family housing, followed by multifamily housing, and lastly, private gardens at the bottom. And our last set of questions that was asked of participants were finance-based questions. So the committee was making decisions regarding selling property based on the buyer's feasibility and ability to develop. So it was determined and seen that most people would want to receive a discount on the sales price. Also, most people want the land bank to conduct more than minimal maintenance on all of our lots, rather than focusing on 1 to 2 neighborhoods at a time. And then finally, the top 2 considerations for possible discounts were affordable housing and pre-development costs. So in order to capture as much as we could, we had an open-ended question, which you'll see on the right side, for other circumstances in which the land bank could consider a discount. So I'll let you take a little bit of time to review this, but again, I'm going to send this out in an email. So why are we here today? We are here because based on the results that you just saw from our community meetings, the land bank has seen 6 different findings. And these findings and themes, we wanted to be able to present to you proposed solutions for those. These solutions will be drafted and taken into consideration to be presented to the board again on May 8th. We do encourage you to attend that meeting if you'd like. But if there's, please continue to take notes as we will ask for your feedback in an email. So what is our first finding? Community asks that the land bank prioritize residents. So to prioritize residents, the land bank proposes the following updates to the application review process. There will be application eligibility scoring that prioritizes applicants neighboring the property and proposals for owner-occupied housing projects. This application eligibility scoring, I will also send to you in an email. You'll get to see the actual rubric in which the Land Bank Board of Directors will use. It is a draft, and I want to reiterate that it is a draft and we're looking for feedback, but you will get access to see exactly what that scoring looks like. We also found that we're looking to implement that approved applications with the same grade but different applicant types will go to the resident. So what does that mean? A resident will never go to auction with an investor. You would only go to auction with someone that is a similar applicant of you. So if there is an investor and a resident together, that application will be awarded, that property would be sold to the resident. And a social impact statement will be required on the application to explain how the proposed project, past or current initiatives, or organization contribute to improving the well-being of communities. This social impact statement will be required and will be reviewed and graded on the applicant eligibility scoring matrix that I will be sending you. A few more proposals that we have. We will be offering possible discounts based on certain criteria in the application. And this discount eligibility scoring does prioritize applicants neighboring the property and proposals for owner-occupied housing projects. That discount is on the sales price. And we wanted to make sure that for out-of-state developers, that if they were approved, they would be seeking local vendors. And the way for us to best ensure that they're local vendors is that they are certified through the Omaha Small and Emerging Businesses. Now, if they've made their effort and they were unable to source, we would ask them to submit an affidavit of good faith effort, and we would put that in their file, and we would take that into consideration. That was our first finding. Our second finding was a desire to further vet applicants. So to further vet applicants, we are proposing the following to our application review process. All applicants will be required to include their development team and or partner nonprofits or organizations in the application. So if you've worked with Spark, if you've worked with others, we want to know that up front. And we will take that into consideration as to your feasibility. Also, development team would be general contractor and those that are helping with the construction. The next would be project and use alignment information. That will be kept on the buyer's file and taken into consideration for future applications. So an example of this would be following through on affordable rates. So if you're a past applicant and you've purchased land bank property, you've developed property, and then you inquired that you are going to be selling this for affordable rates, we will be tracking that and we will take those notes so that we know if you were to ever apply for another property, if you did in fact continue forward with the project that you said you were going to do. And that is after it's out of our compliance monitoring, but we do want to make sure that we keep track of that. And lastly, prior to applying for a specific property, all applicants will be required to complete an eligibility status questions. So it would be, the change is that it's going to be separated out from the actual application, which is very property specific. What do you intend to do with the property? How do you plan to finance it? This is more specific to the applicant themselves. So here's a couple of the, I will send out the eligibility questions as well to you so that you have those. Our third finding is the land bank's vetting of projects. So to further vet projects, the following the land bank proposes the following. Projects that challenge the existing characteristics of the neighborhood will only be considered after notices have been distributed by the land bank staff to surrounding properties within a 100-foot radius. It's important that we gain feedback from those that are living in the neighborhood to ensure that the project is in line with current characteristics. We will also ask all applicants to include their construction or development costs, both the total and per square foot. This will help ensure that we believe that the project is actually feasible, and it will allow us to ensure that it does line up with your proposed finances that you intend to receive. The last thing we want is for an applicant to feel like they're too underwater with their project. So by allowing them to do the due diligence up front, hopefully they can get a successful project. And then lastly, investors must demonstrate that the proposed selling or rental price is comparable to the market area. This will be important to ensure that the pricing of that neighborhood does not go up for this particular property. And we do want to make sure that the investor understands before applying for, in the process of applying for the property, that it is actually within the target market area. The fourth finding is that the community is asking for further assistance to close on a property. So as I had mentioned previously, when you sign into a purchase agreement, there is a 90-day due diligence period. And this period is where we ask for certain documentation. So to ensure the successful sales, we propose the following. The purchase agreement will include a 90-day extension of the due diligence period, so 90 days on top of the existing 90 days, if the buyer is not able to submit all closing documents but is making progress. This is our way of ensuring that not everybody can complete that in 90 days. We understand that. We want to be able to give you grace, but we want to make sure that you're also working towards getting all of your documents put together. We are also proposing that we provide some networking and technical assistance opportunities. One of the ideas that we came up with is a developer's fireside chat. This would be a technical assistance meeting, possibly on a quarterly basis, to ensure that folks that are applying for properties can come talk to professionals in the field, as well as some other successful land bank buyers, and really get feedback on the technical assistance portion. So while the current iteration of the land bank staff does not have construction backgrounds, we want to make sure that we provide resources to allow folks to have successful development. Another way of doing this is providing resources. So we would put together a beginner's guide to developing a land bank property, as well as the land bank friendly lenders list and local housing counselors list. This is something that anybody would be able to access on our website. So as you're going through the process of closing, you can understand exactly what it is that you need to get all your documents ready. And lastly, prior to applying, applicants will be required to complete the due diligence checklist. So this is new as well, and I want to make sure that I go through this checklist with you. So if you do become an applicant, you understand exactly what's expected. This is the checklist that will be required. So all applicants must do a site visit of the property to observe physical conditions. It's very important that you understand what your property looks like, knowing that all properties are vacant and some are more distressed than others. We'll also require a city planning verification that your proposed project is permitted under current zoning regulations. This is very important, as we really do not want you to have any hurdles going through the closing process, finding out that the property you purchased doesn't work. Same with the city public works, a verification of the existing street improvements, also utility plugins, and gathering all that information up front. And then the city-led office verification that the soil on the property is suitable for gardening, requires for garden projects and parks. Again, this is going to help you as an applicant ensure that the property meets all the requirements for your project. Our fifth finding is that the land bank assists further in the completion of projects. So once the property is closed, this is where the compliance monitoring piece kicks off, going from a 2-year timeline to now a tier-based timeline. But to ensure the successful completion of projects, we're proposing the following assistance. This tier-based structure, and this has not been solidified exactly what that looks like yet, but we do want to ensure that those with larger scale, say it's a land assembly for a larger multiplex unit, or a first-time buyer with less experience, we want to make sure that you have enough time to complete that project. And then we are going to start doing quarterly check-ins with buyers to determine the progress that you're making and assist with any needed resources that you may have. Our final finding is that the community is asking for more awareness and access. So to bring more awareness and access, the land bank proposes that we would put for sale signs on all of our lots and place the properties on the MLS. This has taken place already, but we wanted to point it out to ensure that this is something that we will continue to do through the summer months. We're also providing an in-house clinic, which is available for applicants to make an appointment to come into the offices and speak with our real estate manager to review properties and ask questions, and potentially receive resources if you have any hiccups in any of the areas needed to close or the application. We will provide more education materials on the buying process, including some informational videos, definition sheets, and process guides. We know that this developing land is not an easy task. And for those that might be first-time buyers, it can be a bit daunting. And we want to ensure that people have the right resources to go into it and feel like they will be successful. And lastly, we will be presenting more marketing materials in more languages. And that we have some currently right now, but as they continue to get developed, we will expand that as well. So I was able to complete that a lot quicker than I anticipated. I want to make sure that we all understand what we're seeking here today. I'm going to be sending this very presentation to you all in the emails that you provided as you signed up for this, as well as the application eligibility scorecard that the board will be using to ensure the eligibility of applicants and projects, and the discount scorecard, which will show you what the board would review for possible discounts based on certain prioritization. So you'll receive that email from me at info@omlb.org. We ask that you just respond in whatever way, provide us with whatever information you'd like to provide. And please do that by this coming Friday, the 26th at 5 p.m. This will allow us to get in 2 weeks' time a final product to propose to the board by May 8th. And again, we encourage you to attend that meeting as it is a public forum and will allow you to speak on this very topic. So I want to thank everybody again for joining, and everybody who was able to attend the Community and Foreign Policy meetings. We really felt like it was a wonderful attendance. We had great conversations, and we hope that you find that these proposed findings really do justice for the conversations that we had. That's all I have here. So unless there's any other staff members that need to say anything, I just want to thank you all again. And I think we'll let you out much earlier than anticipated.
I just wanted to add that I'll put in the chat an event that's coming up in partnership with Spark. It's called Reignite to Unite Developer Symposium. And we'll be talking more about what happens after the board meeting in May at that event, but it'll be a tremendous opportunity for you to participate. And as a person looking to learn how to use some of the resources that are available to develop properties, especially some of the land bank properties, I encourage you to look into that. Andrea will also share that in her link as well with the follow-up email to you all. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leslie. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining. We'll let you out much earlier. Please enjoy your Monday evening, and look forward to hearing from you on my email. You should receive that by tomorrow morning. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.